watching is the Burnham dredge, and they're dredging Plymouth Harbor. This is part of the Army Corp project, which is actually spanned over 2 years. So they have 2 dredge seasons where they'll complete this project. It's close to about 400,000 cubic yards of material being removed. And basically we're restoring the depth of the channel to 15 feet and the mooring field to 8 feet at low tide. This will allow the passage for deeper draft vessels, tall ships, cruise ships, smaller end cruise ships. You know, they inquire about coming to Plymouth because we have a lot to offer here in the community. And right when we start talking about having the concerns about the depth of the vessel, they don't want to run aground, so they just go right by. So obviously this is timing of this is in preparation for the 2020 celebration. The timing that we have, they'll be dredging the 2 seasons, so they'll be finishing up the spring of 2020, which again, one of the big events for 2020 is the Maritime Salute event, which is scheduled for the end of June. So we'll be fully dredged and ready to go for that event. So they can dredge from October 1st to January 15th each year. So they got on site this year a little later. It's towards the end of October. They'll be here till January 15th. They'll break down, everything will be removed. We'll have summer, and then they'll come back next October 1st. In preparation for next year, they'll be completing the anchorage part. We have about 400 moorings to remove prior to them dredging. So what we'll do is we're working on a mooring plan. Right now the moorings are just sort of set, not really in a grid. It's not an organized grid, but it's sort of worked over the years. But with everything coming out, we're starting clean slate. We'll have a mooring plan, and we'll have a very defined layout for the boats going back.
Having learned more about the reasons behind the dredging and the benefits of it, we hopped onto one of the rigs to learn more about the typical day the dredge workers go through.
My day consists of coming to work at about 6 o'clock in the morning, and we're presently located in the God Box, the control tower of for this dredge, where I have a computer screen that observes what the crane is doing, pulls information in, and lets us know exactly where we are and exactly where we have to dig. The crane operator, Tom Desmond, who sits there and masterfully takes clumps of mud with the environmentally friendly bucket and loads a barge called a dump scow. So we take 10-foot steps, advances, and we do a set of digging the mud and loading the barge, and then when the barge is loaded, we send it off to sea and we wait for another barge and we load that. It takes it about 4 hours to fill each barge. It also depends on how much material is in front of the bucket.
Ted then took us through some of the charts and maps that were in the control room, or God Box, of the dredging rig, and explained the importance behind each one.
It colors everything that I've done already, and it's my daily art class. Now, the crane operator also has a screen in the crane where you see all the marks, the bucket marks. When Tom's done with a certain spot, he will stamp it, and then he'll move on to the next spot.
Though it may seem like a straightforward process, each individual harbor that is dredged presents its own challenges that the workers must take into consideration.
Every harbor is different. The winds, the currents, weather conditions. Here we're pretty much exposed to a fairly large open bay. We do have a breakwater, but that's primarily for storm activity.
With such a large operation happening in a popular location like Plymouth, it is natural that local residents that use the harbor would be concerned about how it is going to affect the use of their boats that they keep there.
What we're doing, we've been in close communication with the mooring holders, keeping them aware of what's happening. Everybody seems to be very excited about the dredge. There's a little concern about everything sort of coming out and going back in, which is to be understood. But I think at the end of the day, when we have the finished product, there's water under everybody's boat. There's a very nice layout for the moorings, so it's much easier to wayfind through the mooring field. I think everybody will be quite happy. Most people are used to a construction project where you can see progress. In this case, everything's happening under the surface of the water, so you really can't see that sort of progress. We have a Twitter account that we use, and we've been posting updates there. We also have a dredge page on our Harbormaster Town of Plymouth website, trying to keep people up to date with what's happening. But really where this is all going to show off is on the 400th celebration, when we can bring in tall ships. So really, I guess, you know, the dredging's happening now. You won't see that sort of progress, but the final program, when we have the Maritime Festival here in Plymouth for the 400th celebration, and we have a ton of tall ships, large tall ships in here, that's really where we're going to show off the project.